With a news update on WHTC Holland's Cool FM, I'm Gary Stevens. A 40-year-old Jenison man lost his life in a crash at dawn yesterday morning involving his motorcycle and an SUV. According to Ottawa County Sheriff's Captain Eric Westphier, the unnamed biker was eastbound on Baldwin Street around 6:15 a.m. when the westbound SUV, driven by a 60-year-old Jenison man, struck the machine head-on near Main Street. Although helmeted, the motorcyclist succumbed to his injuries at the scene while the other motorist was not hurt. The crash remains under investigation. A 3-vehicle pileup yesterday afternoon south of Grand Haven injured 2 of the drivers involved along with 4 children. First responders were dispatched to the intersection of Mercury Drive and Comstock Street around 2:50 p.m. That was where an SUV going northwest, driven by a 23-year-old Muskegon woman, was attempting to make a left turn when it was struck by a southeast minivan, driven by a 44-year-old Grand Haven woman with 4 youths inside as passengers. The force of the collision caused one of the vehicles to veer into a stopped vehicle, driven by a 40-year-old Grand Haven woman, which was waiting for traffic to clear. Those in the initial 2 vehicles were treated at the scene for bumps and bruises, while the driver of the stopped vehicle was not hurt. The incident remains under investigation. Affordable housing was spotlighted this week along the lakeshore. On Wednesday, Orion Construction and Dwelling Place showcased its Hope Apartments development off of West 10th Street and Pine Avenue. It's part of a multi-organization Collin Park Hope housing development aimed at creating 52 new affordable homes across 2 sites, helping to address the area's growing housing needs through stable, high-quality opportunities for local residents. Later that evening, the Holland City Council approved the cancellation of a letter of credit for Lakeshore Habitat for Humanity because of the expected completion of the Vista Green development off of West 36th Street later this summer. It has taken 5 years for Habitat, in a partnership with Jubilee Ministries, to build 42 total housing units at the site. Holland Mayor Nathan Box said that addressing housing needs has been a priority for city leaders, going back before he had assumed office 7 years ago.
If housing, and especially affordable housing, is going to be built, it needs to be done by partner agencies and organizations, and that does rely on some support from the city in order for us to be able to make it financially feasible for those to be built. And we think that that's an important thing to do because there's a good public benefit that goes along with it.
Later this year, Hope Apartments should see its first residents move in. Yesterday, 2 projects south of Holland received a total of more than $3 million in federal low-income housing tax credits in supporting the creation of affordable housing units, with 44 1- and 2-bedroom units at Allegan Terrace in Allegan and 42 senior housing units in South Haven's Sunset Grove. 38-year-old Nicholas Hofstra has been charged with assault with intent to murder, assault to commit great bodily harm less than murder, and carrying a concealed weapon in a vehicle, stemming from a road rage shooting on Wednesday in Grand Rapids. Hofstra allegedly fired shots at another vehicle on East Beltline near 28th Street and assaulted the driver of that vehicle. No one was hit by the bullets that were fired, and Hofstra was arraigned yesterday. A 29-year-old Muskegon area man is charged with first-degree criminal sexual conduct causing personal injury and using a computer to commit a crime. The unnamed man is in the Antrim County Jail in the northern Lower Peninsula after the sheriff's office there said an 18-year-old woman reported he had sexually assaulted her earlier this week in Mansalona. He was arraigned in the Muskegon area within 12 hours of when she reported the assault around 10 o'clock on Tuesday night, and police seized his vehicle as evidence. A Battle Creek woman wants city leaders there to investigate the detainment of her 16-year-old son by authorities. Matricia Spearman says Jeremiah Spearman was racially profiled and treated unjustly when Battle Creek police detained him this past Sunday for the second time in 2 weeks. Spearman claims he was walking along Hubbard Street Sunday afternoon, wasn't doing anything wrong, and didn't feel as if he had to stop to talk to the officers. Police Chief Shannon Bagley says officers saw him clutching his pants and believed that he was armed. Spearman told police he had a pocket knife when they were patting him down. Bagley says they'll review the concerns that he was racially profiled. U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. discussed nutrition and food accessibility yesterday when he and Holland Congressman Bill Huizenga toured Kids Food Basket Farm in Holland. The two took part in a roundtable discussion and both agreed that nutrition for children needs to be improved.
One of the reasons I'm visiting a place like this, the government can't do everything. We're doing a lot. We rely on industry, we rely on partners, on public-private partners, and we rely on NGOs like this one.
Kennedy said when President Trump took office last year, average medical students were only receiving 2 hours of nutrition training, and 80% of doctors said they didn't feel competent to offer advice on the topic. He says 2 medical schools in the state have signed on to increase that training. 4 others have been asked to. Although his name has been listed by the Michigan Secretary of State's office as a candidate for the Republican U.S. House 4th District nomination on the August 4th ballot, Phil Tannis's campaign against 8-term incumbent Bill Huizenga began in earnest yesterday.
Tannis says voters need a choice, and he says it's time to restore civility, integrity, and genuine public service to Michigan's 4th Congressional District. He says Congress has shirked its basic duties and, quote, too many representatives have chosen silence over service, allegiance to a party over accountability to the people. Now, Tannis is currently the director of Hope College's Van Raalte Institute. He was Holland's youngest mayor from 1987 to 1989. I'm Michael Arney.
State House Speaker Matt Hall is prepared to cut Governor Whitmer's office out from the budget negotiations. The Richland Republican says he'll be working instead with Senate Majority Leader Winnie Brinks of Grand Rapids and Senate Appropriations Committee Chairwoman Sarah Anthony to reach a deal on the fiscal 2027 budget by the July 1st deadline.
I think I'm just going to have to go get together with Leader Brinks and the Senate Democrats and do a deal. And perhaps we'll have to do a deal without the governor's office, and we'll put it on her desk, and we'll see what happens.
Hall claims budget talks have been in a holding pattern for the last 5 days, with Whitmer being in Europe, and added State Budget Director Jen Flood is not authorized by the governor to negotiate with lawmakers. Democrats in the Michigan Senate have introduced a package of bills to regulate data centers in the state. The 7 bills would mandate water infrastructure upgrade costs not be passed on to residents near the data centers and would cap water use at 2 million gallons daily, according to suburban Detroit Senator Kevin Hertel.
We're building the economy of the future, but in a way that protects our environment, strengthens our communities, and ensures working people share in the successes.
Data centers would also be required to pay for a minimum of 90% of their energy usage, put up collateral for when they close, and use 90% clean energy. Michigan's unemployment rate in May increased by 0.1 of a percentage point to 5.1%. The State Department of Technology Management and Budget says the jobless rate had stayed at 5% for the previous 6 straight months. The national unemployment rate last month was 4.3%. Manufacturing in Michigan posted the largest monthly employment gain with 3,000 additional jobs. The number of measles cases continue to climb, with latest figures showing there's now more than 2,000 known cases in the U.S., compared to a little more than 2,200 cases in all of last year. About 6% of the cases this year have resulted in hospitalization, but no deaths. According to Dr. Rolf Hurlwimmer, a retired Holland area allergist, this is preventable.
We do have the measles vaccine. It is a wonderful, wonderful vaccine that fortifies the immune system in the person, and no matter what age. And that's what we need.
The CDC says there are 30 new outbreaks, with the U.S. on track to have its worst year for measles in decades. Idle yesterday, the Tigers host the White Sox at Comerica Park this evening, with coverage from Dan Dickerson at 6:15 p.m. on WHTC Holland's Cool FM. Chicago comes to Detroit off of a 5-1 win in New York over the Yankees last night, as Andrew Benintendi came off the bench at a grand slam home run in the 8th inning to break a 1-1 tie.
Going through that inning, and I know if that spot got up, they said I was going to get it. So, Tony and I were down in the cage doing some work, so just staying ready, and then when that spot came up, just try to do the job.
Idle yesterday, Alex Bregman and the Cubs host the Toronto Blue Jays at Wrigley Field in Chicago this afternoon.
Sometimes you're locked in, sometimes you're not. In times when you're not locked in, you go back to, like, hey, how can we find a way to win a baseball game? And I think this group has a lot of guys that know how to find ways to win baseball games. Garrett Pennington drove in 5 runs as the West Michigan Whitecaps overwhelmed the visiting Lansing Lugnuts last night 16-0. The series at LMCU Ballpark in Comstock Park continues this evening. After yesterday's first round of the Meyer LPGA Classic, Jan Lew's 666 gives her a one-shot lead over Cassie Porter and Jessica Pavosnik. Round 2 is slated for today at the Blythefield Country Club in Belmont. Get the latest news anytime at WHTC.com.